Howdy, y'all. I am Adam, Renaissance Nerd. Let us begin my informal Star Wars Expanded Universe book club. For the past couple weeks, I asked that if you were going to participate through comments and on the Geeks and Gamers forums, that you read Star Wars Shadows of the Empire by Steve Perry. All right, I'm going to get a couple things out of the way before we really get started here. First of all, I've never done anything like this before. All my life, when reading for pleasure came around, we're not talking about books in school, we're talking about reading for pleasure. It's always been a private thing for me. Just me, my book, and my own thoughts. I've never really discussed it with anybody. I've shared my opinion whether or not somebody should read something, but I've never actually talked about my private reading life with people. So this is something new for me to do, to share. Just getting that out there. So it's going to feel a little weird for me going forward. I'm hoping as we continue this series that I'll get a little more comfortable. Second, since I said I've never done this before, I've got an idea how I'm going to approach expressing my thoughts on the book. We're going to run with it. I've got an idea. I've jotted down some stuff. I've got my notes over here. We're going to give it a go. We're going to give it a go, see how it feels. And we're going to adjust as we move forward through the EU main storyline. Again, I stress we're going through the main storyline. Let's see, anything else? Since we are reading the Expanded Universe, there are a lot of things to know. One, this book was not the first of the Expanded Universe, although it starts earliest in the timeline where I want to begin. This book was written in 1996. It was written before the prequels came out. A lot of the books you're going to be reading in this first arc of the EU, as I like to think of it, the pre-Yuuzhan Vong War arc. Basically, let's call it the Birth of the New Republic arc. I'm going to call it the Birth of the New Republic arc, and the return of the Jedi, the restoration of the Jedi Order. A lot of this was written before the prequels, so there's going to be some contradictory stuff, and we're going to touch on it when we come across it. And we're going to watch as the EU integrated the prequels, the Clone Wars, and all that kind of stuff, as it integrated all that information into it. And little retconning happens here and there, but not much. It all does it pretty seamlessly because there were people overseeing proper canon integration. So as we go forward, don't be surprised if some things are like, oh man, that can't be right. That didn't happen in the prequels during the Clone Wars. Well, Clone Wars hadn't happened yet, so we do that. All right, therefore, without further ado, let us begin discussing Star Wars Shadows of the Empire.
Do it.
Okay, so I'm going to try and just really briefly, talk about the main gist of what's going on in this story. And then what I really want to do is I want to examine the story through the characters. This story is told through the perspective of 4 characters: Luke, Leia, Vader, and Prince Shizor. And these characters are what make the book interesting because this book, it suffers the failing of no stakes because it suffers the prequel failing of we know everybody survives. All the main characters, we know their fates already. So the tension in this book is not from, is everybody going to survive this? The tension comes from enjoyment of watching characters you love do fun stuff, do awesome stuff. That's where the real fun of this is. This book is about the characters, not so much about the story telling us what happened between Empire and Jedi, but watching characters we love do great stuff. So we're gonna look. I'm gonna spend like a couple minutes here now, just as quickly and succinctly talking about what happens in this book. But I want to start by saying this book starts off in an awesome way. It starts off in the prologue of Shizor in the presence of the Emperor, while the Emperor is talking to Vader in Empire Strikes Back. It's very cool. Immediately, because of that moment, when you're reading the original dialogue from Empire Strikes Back, the dialogue between Vader and the Emperor is the original dialogue from the original cut, not when Lucas brought Ian McDermott back to do fresh scene dialogue to when he was monkeying with it for post prequels. Now, this is original Empire Strikes Back dialogue, and it just pulls you right in. It makes you feel like you're in Star Wars immediately. And then once you read this, that scene in Empire is forever changed in your mind, because you think, wow, Shizor is right there. Vader doesn't know it. It's great. It's great. So it pulls you right in. So what is the story about? The story is about, in the end, the failed attempt to try and intercept Boba Fett before he gets to Tatooine with Han. It's the driving force of the story, but it soon is overtaken by the fact that Shizor is sending bounty hunters and assassins out to kill Luke, while Vader is also trying to get Luke, while Shizor is basically in a power struggle against Vader for the favor of the Emperor. Vader is patiently waiting for Shizor to slip up. Meanwhile, Shizor also wants revenge against Vader, because one of Vader's biological experiments on Faline. I'll explain what that is in a second. On Shizor's home planet, Faline, escaped and killed Shizor's family. So that's one of the driving force behind Shizor wanting to one-up Vader and gain the Emperor's favor. And also, to one day Shizor believes he will be ruler of the galaxy, because Prince Shizor is the head of the criminal syndicate Black Sun, the most powerful underworld entity, more powerful than the Hutts. He controls everything in the underworld. He's considered, by this book's standards, the third most powerful man in the galaxy, behind the Emperor and behind Vader. So what happens? Basically, Luke and Leia and Lando and Chewie are on Tatooine. They're hanging out at Ben's house in Mos Eisley, waiting for any news whatsoever to get a lead on Han. Luke is trying to build a fresh lightsaber while honing his Jedi abilities. From Obi-Wan's house, he found an instruction manual that gives him the knowledge and ingredients necessary to construct a lightsaber and fabricate a fresh crystal. Luke's first lightsaber, by this canon, is a synthetic crystal, not an actual crystal you can get on Ilum, that kind of stuff. So we are watching Luke training, we are watching Leia pining, we're watching Lando be Lando, and we're watching Chewie be overprotective. And add in comic relief from R2 and 3PO, and you've got the core unit of what's going on here, alongside Vader and Shizor's power struggle. So what happens? They get a lead eventually, and while Leia and Lando and Chewie go off planet to try and secure the information on Rhodia. Oh no, that's later. I'm sorry, that's later. First, they secure the information through Dash Rendar. He is the original character introduced in this. Dash Rendar provides them with the information that Boba Fett is sitting on a planet out on the Outer Rim. We don't know why. They get the news. They head out there. They meet up with Dash Rendar. He's basically your replacement for Han Solo in this. And with the help of Dash Rendar and Rogue Squadron, led by Wedge Antilles, they assault an Imperial outpost to try and get to Boba Fett on Slave One. Unfortunately, they never even catch sight of Slave One. Everything goes to shit in a shit show. Too much Imperials. Rogues start to die. They got to bug out. They retreat to Tatooine. Meanwhile, Shizor has put a hit out on Luke. Shizor put a hit out on Luke. Assassins and bounty hunters are lining up. And Vader is looking for Luke. Vader wants to kill Shizor for trying to get to Luke, but he can't do anything because the Emperor says hands off. Meanwhile, Shizor is feeding both the Imperials and the Rebels information about the Death Star plans. So while Luke and Leia and Lando return to Tatooine, Leia, Lando, and Dash immediately head off to Rhodia when they have news that they can use the Black Sun to try and get a lead on who's trying to kill Luke. So what happens then is they get a lead. Meanwhile, Luke fends off some stuff. He fends off an attack by thugs from Jabba, a swoop gang from Jabba on Tatooine. And at the same time, then Dash, who's been sent to protect Luke, comes back to help Luke, and they get a message intended for Leia, sending them. And here's another fun part that draws you right into the fact that you're living in this universe again. You're living in the Star Wars galaxy. They get a message from the Bothans that a secret Imperial piece of information is on the move. Death Star 2 plans. This is how the Death Star. This is the event of the Death Star 2 plans. They wove it into this, and it's very cool. So what happens is the Emperor, on advice from Shizor, puts the plans out there. Luke, leading a ragtag group of Bothan fighter pilots, manages to steal it, and many Bothans die. Dash has a crisis of character because he fails to save some Bothans, but that's kind of in there. But since we're never behind Dash's eyes, I'm not really going to dwell on that. And at the same time, Luke gets captured by bounty hunters who want Black Sun. Lando learns that there's a problem, so he leaves Leia on Rhodia, who is now working with Guri, who is Shizor's top lieutenant. She's a perfect droid human replica. HRD, human droid replica. She's perfect. Strong, nasty, beautiful. So Leia is taken by Guri back to Coruscant to meet Shizor, while Lando goes and rescues Luke. And then Leia and Chewie get captured by Shizor, while Luke and Lando escape Luke's bounty hunters. Luke returns with Lando to Coruscant, where they end up doing this massive rescue mission that Shizor thinks he's in complete control of. And in the end, shit happens. Luke, Lando, and Chewie save Leia. Vader finds out that Shizor has broken his promise to keep his hands off Luke. Vader does some badass shit, blows away a ton of Black Sun stuff. All kinds of cool stuff happens. We'll talk about that in the character descriptions, but that's basically what happens. Our heroes escape, they return to Tatooine, and we are set up for the events of Return of the Jedi. Whew. All right.
The Force is with you, young Skywalker. But you are not a Jedi yet.
Okay, let's talk about what I believe is the best part of this book, and that are the characters in this book. Luke, Leia, Vader, and Shizor. They are the driving force. We are seeing everything through their eyes. So I'm going to talk about their importance and why it's important to watch their development in this book. We're going to start with Luke. The entire book is, one of the major themes of this book is Luke starting to really come into his own as a young Jedi Knight. And the key aspect is watching his growth, where he is completely unsure of himself, and he's questioning, he's afraid of the dark side. Many times there are moments in this where Luke feels the dark side pulling at him. The cold, sickly touch of the dark side. And he realizes that if he gives into his anger, he would have power. At one point, when Jabba's swoop gang, page 110, when the swoop gang's going after him, Luke realizes that if he gives into anger, he could just wipe the floor of him. But no, he's constantly struggling to keep his cool, to deal with his self-confidence issues, because he thinks of Vader killing Obi-Wan. He thinks of everything they did to Han and Leia, and he wants to unleash it, but he doesn't. And that is the beauty of watching Luke grow. And as we go on watching him, he gets stronger. His ability in the Force gets stronger. We watch him complete his lightsaber. And one of the key moments is during the attempt to try and intercept Boba Fett. Luke is leading Rogue Squadron again to run interference with the Imperial Star Destroyers that are guarding the planet, so that Leia and Lando on the Falcon can have their shot to try and intercept Slave One. For 1 minute, Luke is thinking, oh man, this is great. I'm having a great time. I'm leading the rogues. Force is with me. I'm flying around, dodging everything. And then the rogues start to die. And Luke realizes that it's the classic line, it's all fun and games until somebody gets hurt. And he loses, and because he has the fear grips him, and the indecision grips him. He loses his control in the Force. This entire book, 2/3 of this book is about Luke trying to learn to maintain his hold on the Force. Because at times, the slightest thing, boom, breaks it, he loses control, and he's left to his own basic abilities. So that when you get to the point where he's been taken prisoner by the bounty hunters on Bothawui, I'm sorry, it's a colony near Bothawui, I think. I forget. Anyway, he's after the Death Star 2 plan mission, he's been captured. You watch him. He is meditating. He's thinking about how can I get out of here with my force powers, and he pulls off the Jedi mind trick not for the first time. He did it earlier, but this is the first time he really puts effort into it, and he maintains it, and he almost succeeds completely. And then, of course, he botches it, and he's in a fight for his life, lightsaber out. But luckily, Lando comes to his rescue, and he gets out of there. And the evolution, of course, really comes into it in the attempt to rescue Leia from Shizor's palace, where Luke, at this point, he's staying calm. He realizes that the Force is with him. And that as long as he stays calm, it will always be with him and will guide him. And they come up against Guri. Guri at this point many times has shown that she is a badass. She is just lethal beyond all normal human standards because she is a droid. One of a kind, unique. And Guri and Luke come up against each other. It's the palace is about to explode because Lando threw a thermal detonator down a garbage chute. And the whole thing's about to come down in about another 3 minutes. But while Leia, Lando, and Chewie head for a landing pad where R2 and 3PO are piloting the Falcon to get it there, it's an hysterical thing. I'm laughing while I'm reading that. Luke decides, I'm going to face off against Guri. I need to test myself. But I'm going to do it without my lightsaber. I'm going to use the Force. So the Force fills him. And Guri is all over him, and he's dodging him. And he's doing superhuman stuff. But then Leia says something, and it distracts him, and he loses his grip for a moment. And Guri gets a hit in, and he's staggered. And she's about to get the kill kick in. But then Luke regains his confidence. He regains his control of the Force, and he levels up. Just suddenly, his awareness of the Force levels him up, and everything is slow motion. And he easily gets around, and he beats Guri with his bare hands, doesn't use his lightsaber, but then in the moment, Guri has shown that she is willing to kill. She wants to kill Leia throughout this whole fucking story. She wants to kill Leia throughout the whole damn thing. And she is ruthless, and is one of those moments where you should not leave an enemy like that alive to come and get you. But Luke knows it is not the Jedi way to just kill. And he reaches down and says, "Come with us. You were programmed this way. We can help you." Of course, Guri says, "No, I am programmed for my master and this and that, but you beat me fair and square. I'm not going to come after you now. You're free to go." But right there, Luke shows his strength as a Jedi. He resists the dark side. He feels Vader in the distance at this point. He feels Vader closing in because Vader at this point is unknowingly coming to Luke's rescue by he's about to slam the Black Sun forces. We're going to get to that. But that is one of the beautiful things about this book. Watching Luke's evolution into the Jedi that we see in Return of the Jedi.
I love you.
I know.
Now let's talk about Leia. This book, in a single story, instantly reminds you why we love Leia Organa. Leia, throughout this entire story, proves that a woman can be strong and a woman can still be a woman. Right away, in the first page, like pages 17 through 19, the first time we see Leia, she's getting hit on in a bar. She's getting hit on in a bar, And Chewie's been pushing away and she says, I can handle this myself. But then she can't. And she goes, fine, here's a blaster. And then lets the Wookiee do his thing. So it's great. Leia, she tries to be strong, and but realize she's putting on a front. Because you realize right away she is suffering because Han isn't there. We get a real glimpse right away of how much she loves him. And throughout the story, she's cursing. She's like, man, why am I acting like this? I never thought this would happen to me, but I'm in love, and this wasn't supposed to be like this. I was going to devote myself to the cause and this, but this scoundrel, this man, I'm in love with him. And I told him I love him. I said, I love you, and all he said was, I know. I don't even know if he loves me, yet I'm doing all this to get him back. I mean, she's behaving like a normal person. She's not behaving like a woman. She's behaving like a normal woman in love, who we know now eventually will be her one true love. It's a bumpy road. We got a couple stories. It's going to be a bumpy road. But her true love is been pulled away from her, and at the same time, she's got conflicting feelings about Luke. She knows she has feelings for Luke, but she knows they're not romantic, but she can't quite place them. Of course, we know the real answer to that. She's her sister. But it's great. It's to watch Leia not only be strong, to be the leader that we're going to see her evolve to being in the EU. We're not going to see the failure that is General Leia Organa in the Disney Star Wars sequel trilogy. We are going to watch Leia Organa, let's see here, Leia Organa, right here, there she is. We're going to watch Leia Organa evolve into Leia Organa Solo throughout the expanding viewers, and the strength and the trials that she goes through. She is not a failure. She's not the failure that is General Leia Organa. She's not the failure. And this story lays the groundwork for it. You watch her as she eventually, before Luke comes into his own as being a Jedi, as she kind of leads this little group. She's Lando's her contact to the underworld and that, but she's making decisions. It's her choice to do this, her choice to do that. And eventually, when she takes it upon herself to go into the lion's den, to go up against Shizor, to try and find out who is trying to kill Luke. Little does she know that it's Shizor who's trying to kill Luke. And little does she know that she is walking into this trap because Shizor has a hard-on for her. We're going to talk about Shizor after this. I'll get into Shizor in a moment. But I want to talk about Leia first. Keep talking about Leia first. She goes to Coruscant. And this is also how she gets her Bosk is Trandoshan. Her Bosch bounty hunter uniform. And that carries over to Return of the Jedi. So again, little fun thing. Here's a little Return of the Jedi fun thing. There's that. We also learned that that's how I'm getting ahead of myself. Stay on target. So she ends up going to Coruscant, thinking that she's going to outplay Shizor, having no idea that it's a Falleen, having no idea that Falleen have they're reptilians with powerful pheromones that affect the opposite sex, just make them super freaking horny. So she goes in there, and she thinks she's in control. And Shizor's pheromones, he is prepped, he's full power. He just lays it on, and she is consumed by his Shizor. He ends up kissing her. They start to make out, and it's only through Chewie. It's only through good, loyal, dependable Chewbacca that she's able to break out, because when Shizor, thinking he's in control still, lets her go talk to Chewie, and in that moment, she has a realization. In that moment, here's something that I think is very interesting. It's around page 234. Let's go to it here. It's page 234. She's resisting Shizor. Is that right? Yeah, 234. While she's, during this period of time here, around page 234, she gets angry. Now, at this point, Leia doesn't know that she's Force sensitive. I believe that it's subtly hinted at in here that from this point forward, she's able to resist the pheromones because she's unconsciously drawing on the dark side. I think Leia was drawing on the dark side because she says she's angry. Then, because she's a Force sensitive, that means she was tapping into the dark side to fend off Shizor's pheromones. And at one point, she kicks him in the nuts, and she pushes him off, and then Shizor sends her away. But it's great. So then, from that point on, Leia's in control, and she's appalled that she was getting suckered by. She didn't know the pheromones were what was going on. She thought it was a drug for a while. Then, of course, she feels Luke coming, and we get a more hint that she's becoming more Force sensitive. And then throughout the escape of Shizor's palace, she gets out by herself. When Guri goes there to get her, Leia beats her down with a chair and runs out the door and gets out there and eventually ends up with everybody else. And in a very amusing scene, do I have it here? On page 310. On page 310, Leia gets the thermal detonator from Lando that she ends up using to threaten Jabba in Return of the Jedi. I mean, it's the fun little things like that. That's what makes this book fun. Even though it suffers the prequel fallacy of we know that everybody's going to survive, it's fun stuff like that pulls you in. So it's great. It's just great. So that's Leia. You watch Leia being real, being strong, but still being a woman. And you watch her unconsciously, I believe, tapping into the Force. It's great. All right, that's Leia. I'm going to go right into Shizor now. Shizor is interesting. I'm leaving Vader for last because Vader kind of ties it all together, in my opinion. Shizor is interesting because he's one of the main characters of this story. And Steve Perry does a successful job of creating this arrogant son of a bitch that is Shizor. Shizor thinks he is the cat's meow. He thinks he is the best thing ever. He thinks he could beat Vader. He thinks he can outsmart the Emperor eventually. He thinks he can outsmart everybody. He thinks he's going to win in the end. And bravo. I mean, he's never lost. At this point in his life, Shizor has never lost. As I said, he is a Falleen. He's a reptilian alien, very humanoid reptilian alien. He produces pheromones that can affect the opposite sex. He's got greater than normal human strength. And he's got a very adept mind. He's very smart and very intelligent. He is the reason, as I said earlier, that Palpatine sent out the Death Star 2 plans into the wild to try and draw the rebels into Endor to crush them. He is the one that told the rebels that the plans were out there. He is the one that tipped off Leia that Luke was in trouble, that Luke was being hunted. I mean, he was a puppeteer doing a masterful job, but his arrogance gets the better of him because he underestimates the power of the Force. He underestimates Luke, and he also underestimates Vader. And his arrogance also leads him to get his own, to give Vader what he needs to get him. We're going to get to that in a minute. But he spends the entire book playing chess, talking about power moves, this and that, and you realize, yeah, he really is powerful. There's an amusing moment. I didn't mark the page, darn it. Sorry, I didn't mark the page. But at one point, it's a nice little fan service moment. He summons Jabba. He summons Jabba from Tatooine to come to Coruscant to meet with him in order to try and get information on why Vader wanted Han Solo, this and that. It's a great little scene, and again, pulls you in, and it shows you Shizor's power. That Jabba, one of the most powerful Hutts in the Hutt Syndicate, he bends the knee, or I guess bends the blob. He bends the blob to Shizor. Shizor even makes him talk basic. He says, "Don't talk Huttese to me. Speak basic." "Yes, my prince." I mean, it's fantastic. It's a great little scene. It's fun, and it's disappointing because Shizor was a good character, and you know he's a good character because you're going, while you're reading, you're going, you arrogant bastard. You're making faces, you're mumbling at him when he's being arrogant. That's the sign of a good character that is being written well, because you're grumbling at them. You don't like what they're doing to your heroes. But Shizor, at the end of the book, when he has lost everything, and it's all crumbling around him because he overreached, he overplayed his hand. It's clear that he escapes his demise at the hands of Vader. And I always thought he would reappear. But in the main storyline, which is what I read, I didn't read any side comics like that, Shizor never reappeared. And that was a shame. I always waited for him to come back and be a player again. Because he would have had a beef to pick with Luke. He would have had a beef to pick with Leia because Leia resisted him, and he didn't like the fact that he resisted. No woman had ever resisted his pheromones before. And she kicked him she kneed him in the nuts. She kneed him in the nuts. So Shizor never appeared again, and that was a shame. I always felt that was a shame. Because we're going to go right to Vader again. We're going to keep going, go right to Vader. I'm not going to break because I feel like I'm on a roll here. Because it would have been interesting in the vacuum of Vader to have Shizor be a player again. But no, we didn't. So Vader. Vader's in this, but he's kind of periphery in this. The joy of Vader in this is the fact that just Vader is there and you're in his head. And again, this is pre-prequels. This is pre-Clone Wars. This is pre-anything else written on Vader. This is one of the first times we weren't reading a novelization of the original movies that you get inside Vader's head. At least it was for me. It was the first time I ever got inside Vader's head. And you learn his motivations. And that's one of the key interesting things for me in this. And the motivations of Vader are not what you think. One, it gives you the hints that Anakin is still in there. He even remarks that Anakin is still inside me, and he hates that Anakin is still in there. But Vader, his goal, aside from bringing Luke into the dark side fold, is to heal himself. And there are several moments in this, and the most poignant one is on page 274, where Vader manages to heal his damaged lungs for over 2 minutes and breathe normal air without his suit or without his Sith. It's a Sith meditation chamber, but it's also a decompression chamber. So he's able to breathe normally, and he feels it. And watching his thoughts about how he must stay angry to control the dark side, because if he feels even a moment of joy, he loses his grip on the dark side, and his lungs and his breathing airways shrink back to the scarred shrivel. I mean, it's poignant that he's struggling to be a man again, but he is still denying the man he was in favor of the power of the dark side as he perceives it. And at the same time, his hatred of Shizor as a coward who hides behind things, who plays games, and Vader's belief that of being a warrior. And then even though he's adept at this point, because remember, this is about 20 years since the end of the Clone Wars and he became Darth Vader, he's become adept at politics and underworld manipulations. He's also like the third richest guy in the Empire behind Palpatine and Shizor. And you get into his head. You learn that he wants Luke. It's a sick way of love, but it is love in a way. A sick way of love to want to turn Luke to the dark side. And of course, overthrow the Emperor. But then he knows how powerful the Emperor is. You still see that he's afraid of the Emperor because he knows that Palps is just so much more adept and has so much more knowledge of the dark side still that he can't even think to challenge him yet. But you get a moment where you cheer for Vader, because when at one point during Shizor's collapse, where Lando is throwing the thermal detonator down the chute, the palace is collapsing. He's underestimated Luke and Leia, and they've gutted him because he had so much of his power was stored in his palace. As it crumbles, he loses so much. He's retreating to his skyhook, which is a starbase in orbit around Coruscant. He lets it slip on an open transmission that he's trying to kill Luke. And Vader grabs it. He's been waiting for it. And there you get your moment where, yes, Vader's a bad guy, but you cheer for Vader in that moment where he's like, oh, Vader's got you. Vader's got you. And Vader gets him. Vader brings about the Executor from the other side of the planet. And the Executor just demolishes, and with its TIE fighter wings, it demolishes the Black Sun fleet, allowing Luke, Leia, Wedge, the Rogues to flee. So it's great. It's great. And you cheer for it, and you smile, and you know where Vader's going. So that you know where it's going. So but it's warm. You're pulled in because it's Star Wars and you're having fun. Okay, let's wrap this up. I'm going to talk about a couple other things about this book, a little bit of good and the bad. One of the annoying things in this book were off and on terminology wasn't accurate. I don't know if Steve Perry had anybody giving him right terminology. It's little things. It doesn't take away from it, but talking about Twi'leks, it says head tentacles. They're called Leku. They're called Leku. Get that right. I think that could have happened. Let's see, what else? There was a point, it's page 264. They go into this gigantic Black Sun lore dump. They never go anywhere with the Black Suns after this in my readings. So it was very, to me, I glazed over at that point. I was like, really, I don't need this. And now let's talk about, I'm going to talk about Dash Rendar real quick. I mentioned him earlier. Dash Rendar, he's your Han Solo replacement. He's portrayed as an arrogant, cocky, completely sure of himself, can do no wrong pilot, shooter, scoundrel. And he backs it up. And his confidence gets shaken during the Death Star 2 plans scene where he fails to destroy a torpedo that kills a bunch of Bothans. But and he plays a role. His role in this story is basically as a tool for helping Luke I think Luke and Leia to understand people better. And he does an okay job at that. And at the very end, he apparently dies during the final escape of Coruscant. Now, if you played the Nintendo 64 game, which I didn't, but I know what happens, he pretends to die. He reveals, oh, Dash, he got away clean. I don't know about that. Dash never appears in any of the further adventures of the EU. Guri also escapes on page 321. It's implied that she escapes Shizor's collapsing palace by stealing a glider. I think I saw during some pre-research when I was getting ready for the video that they're supposedly meet after Guri's been reprogrammed or something and they get along together, but I don't know. So that's where it kind of fails. They introduce Dash. He doesn't really go anywhere. He's basically only really a video game character. The game, as I said in the last segment, they fail to expand on Shizor as a future problem for our heroes, and Guri coming back. It also could imply that Guri could have been more too. That's where the book fails down. And also, of course, it fails in the fact that it does, as I keep saying, it suffers from the prequel fallacy of there's no tension, we all know everybody's going to survive. But it's okay. In the end, this book is a fun book. Shadows of the Empire is a fun book because we have fun with characters that we love. And it gives you a fresh look on Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, in my opinion. As well as I think it's poignant that I'm going over this book right now because stupid Disney Star Wars is attempting to tell their own version of what happens between Empire and Jedi with this War of the Bounty Hunters crap where Luke has a yellow lightsaber and maybe Han got defrosted from carbonite and, oh, look, Boba Fett's fighting these people. Screw that. it's convoluted and stupid from what I've looked into. This is a nice little short, contained story. It sets up Return of the Jedi quite nicely, and it's fun. So that's it. I recommend, if you've enjoyed this video at all, and if you haven't read it, go read the book. If you have read it, what do you think of what I've talked about? Do you agree with what I've said? Do you have any points that I maybe glossed over? And I mean, I could have gone into so much more, but I don't want to go on for 2 hours. I'm trying to keep this under an hour. What do you think? Did you like the book? Did you enjoy it? Do you agree with my perception of how it was presented and why it's good? Did you think it was fun? Did you like the way our characters are presented? Because that's the big deal. In reading the expanded universe, one of the biggest things in realizing is watching the characters we love handled correctly. And this, if we're going through a timeline, is the first non-movie moment where we have to watch characters not directly under Lucas's control be played with. And I think it did fine. And even though there's no Han Solo in this book, which I originally thought was going to be a problem for me, I enjoyed it either way. All right. Shadows of the Empire is done. For our next book club, Star Wars, The Truce at Baccarat, taking place literally the day after the end of Return of the Jedi. It's a good book. It has a couple of really poignant moments. And I'm looking forward to, I've read this at least, I think, 2 or 3 times. So this will probably, I think this will be my 3rd or 4th time reading it. And it's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to this. This is now the first moment when we're reading a story where suddenly there are stakes because our heroes are no longer contained by the original story. We are now beyond Return of the Jedi. We are into the birth of the New Republic. So again, Truce at Baccarat. I will make another video reminding everybody that it's the next book. If you haven't watched this video, I think I'm going to give, let's check this out. Let me look at this real quick here. The calendar. All right. Next week is the week of the 28th. So next week's a holiday weekend for us in America. It's July 4th. So I'm going to say, let's say week of July 12th. Week of July 12th. Try to finish Truce at Baccarat by the week of July 12th. And then I'll post my fresh video and we can have a discussion. If this was successful enough, we'll have another discussion. We'll keep going. If we keep this going well enough and enough of you get interested, I might upgrade these to live streams and try my hand at live streaming. Anyway, thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I want to return the love of Star Wars to everybody, and that's what these are for. This is to return people to a love of Star Wars to help wash away the foul taste that is Disney Star Wars. Let's continue to have some fun. Thank you for watching this video. Let's see, like it if you liked it. Share the video. If you think that you know someplace where people want to get into Star Wars, rediscover the love for it, share the video. Share this video. I ask you to do that. Hit the notification button. Comment away. This whole video is going to be predicated on your comments, engaging me here and engaging me on the Geeks and Gamers Forum. There will be a link to that thread in the description of this video. Comment away. Let's have some fun. Thank you again for watching. Take it easy. Thanks for watching, everybody. I still don't do Facebook. I still don't do Twitter, but there are ways to interact with me outside of YouTube. You can email me at therennerd@gmail.com. It's purely for this channel, so there's no chance I will miss any communication from you. You can also find me active at the Geeks and Gamers Forums under the handle ROAS. And I am on Parler now. Follow me at therennerd on Parler. Thanks again for watching. See you next time.